Hello and welcome everyone. In this video, we will learn how to read various formats of JSON files using serverless SQL Pool in Azure Synapse Analytics platform. Here are the resources that we will need. First up, we have is the data lake storage account, Gen2, and then we will need Synapse Analytics workspace and couple of JSON files. For the JSON files, you don't worry, I will attach the link in the description. You can download these JSON files from my Git library. And also, if you don't know how to provision these resources, I will attach the steps for the same in the Git library itself. All right, let's open the Azure portal now, portal.azure.com. Okay, so I have my Data Lake Gen 2 account here, and I also have the Synapse Analytics workspace already provisioned. So let me open the Synapse Analytics workspace. Okay, you click here and then you click open Snap Studio. And in the meantime, this opens, we will open our storage account as well. So within this storage account, I have this container named CNT input data, and inside that I have a folder named input. Okay. So here I have the files that I uploaded for this exercise. Okay, now let's move to the Synapse Analytics workspace, right? We'll come to these files a little bit later, and then we'll start loading these files one by one. I'll go over what is the difference between these files and then how to load each file. So let's head over to the Analytics Synapse Analytics workspace. Here, let me quickly give you a glimpse of what it has in the data tab. So basically, you have workspaces, you have your linked data sources. Like for example, when we create the Synapse Analytics workspace, so by default you have to attach a data lake storage account, which is what in our case is this one, right? SAA data lake, right? This one. So this exactly the same that you should see in this one. Okay, yeah. So this one I have here, right? So I am able to see the container that I have here, and within that the input folder which we saw here. Okay, yeah. Here is the input folder and here are the files. Now, okay, so this is about the data tab. So here we can access our data. Now this is our develop tab. Now in the develop tab, basically you write all your queries, okay, for analysis, for data exploration and things like that, right? So you can write SQL, you can write KQL. KQL basically you generally use for either log analytics or your data explorer by default uses KQL. You can create notebooks like in Python notebooks and stuff like that if you have created the uh, Spark pool. Okay, and then within the integrate, yeah. So in this tab, basically you can create your pipeline, you can create your connections and things like that. We don't really need this section for this demo today, but yeah. Okay. So yeah, so within the monitor tab, if you see, right, so here you can see like our SQL pools. Okay, let me just show you this one. So we have a built-in serverless SQL pool. We are not creating any dedicated pool for now. Okay, we can create dedicated SQL pools. We can have Apache Spark pools. We can create these pools if we need. But for now, we'll stick to how to load the JSON files. And for that exercise, we can go ahead and use the basic, the built-in Spark pool. Okay, so we don't really need a dedicated uh, Spark SQL pool here. Okay. So let me go back to the data now. Okay, so here is what we have the data file. So let me just show you um, what each file has. So first one, let me just you know check the format and the data. Okay, so yeah, so this is a very simple standard JSON basically, right? So if you don't know what JSON looks like, so this is how it represents the data. Like it has the name value pairs, or you can call it key value pairs. These attributes or these pairs are then separated by comma, and then this object is actually called one single JSON object. Okay, now if you see these this square brackets, so square bracket basically denotes the arrays, okay, and this denotes a JSON object, right? So this means this is an array of JSON objects, right? And each array object, JSON object, is actually separated by a comma, right? So now how do we load this? Okay, so essentially what we need is we need a product ID column and product description, and within that we should seal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and these products, okay, in the description. Now let's see, let's head over to Synapse, and then within Synapse, if I do a right click and see what direct options are available, right? So I can directly write a select top 100 rows, okay? So let me do this. So this is what I get. Let me, quickly name this first. Okay, so I'll just name it with the exactly with the file name itself so that we know. Okay, so this is it. Okay, so so let me remove this part also, make it clean, and let's just run it. Okay, so by the time it runs, let me just collapse this section right here. So if you see, so what it did is it did not show us like the columns that we were expecting it to do, but then it took all the JSON content and put that into one single cell, basically one column, one cell, right? So everything is here in one column, which is JSON content. Now this is what we really don't need, right? We are doing the exploration now. Let's look at what these three fields mean. Okay, so basically reading the file is being done by open row set here. Bulk basically specifies the path where you are picking up the data from. So this is your storage account name, right? This is your storage account name. Here it is, right? And then within that, this is my container, this is my folder, and this is my file, right? So this is pretty self-explanatory. And then you are looking at this format, CSV, right? So if it's a JSON file, we didn't really get a JSON format here, right? Because actually JSON format support is not there right now. It supports CSV, it supports Delta, Parquet, right? And then there are like parsers of CSV 1.0, 2.0, and things like that. But then for now, the workaround is not really workaround. It's a standard way of working with JSON files. So you load JSON file as a CSV, but you are sort of fooling the system, okay, by specifying these three parameters, right? So within a typical CSV, how we do it, right? So we let me just create a very quick one, okay? So let's say product ID and product description, okay, and something like this. So here if you see, right, here if you see, so it basically specifies how are you defining these objects, like field quote. So this is your field quote, right? You are quoting them within the single quotes. Field terminator, how are you terminating or segregating this field? So basically our terminator here is comma. We can use other pipe delimiter or other delimiter basic, depending upon what kind of data we have and what kind of things we want to escape and things like that. But yeah, in a nutshell, this is what it does. And row terminator is basically how you define a second line of data, another line of data, right? Row separator. So this is a new line character in our case. Now, so in this case, what we are saying is this is a 0x0b. 0x0b is basically an invalid, you can say, character. It's a vertical tab actually. So vertical tab, we do not have this in our data. And generally, we never have this in our data. So that is why we mention that, okay, this is how I'm terminating my field. This is how I'm terminating my row and things like that. So because all the three notations here are mentioning an invalid character, that is why it is not able to segregate these into rows, right? And putting everything into single column, because it is not able to differentiate the row, it is not able to differentiate the field and things like that, right? And put simply all the things into one cell, right? So, but anyway, this is what exactly we need as of this moment with open row set. So with the open row set, we only want to read the data. That's it. Okay, in one single cell. Now, next thing what we will do is, let me just remove this one. Okay, let me just put a star here. Okay, for now with star also you'll get the same output, by the way, but let me then extend it. Okay, now what we will do is we will use another function which is called Openjson. Okay, and we will expand this particular thing. We'll pass this text to that function so that function Openjson will expand it basically, right? So this is how you do it. Cross apply, you use cross apply, and you say Openjson, and you give this one as your input here. Okay, and we mention with clause also here. We can do it without with also, but I'll go in that detail just in a short while. Okay, so here you can mention product ID as small int or int, product description as varchar, maybe 50 for now, right? So let's do this and let's just try and run it. Okay. See, you have your data, right? But this is like replicating, but this is what we needed actually, 6 rows and everything separated out, right? Now, what we can do is, so we can simply mention that you need only product ID and product description, like you mentioned in a simple SQL statement, right? Am I writing it correct? Yeah. So, yeah. So you have what we needed here. Okay. Now let's save our changes first. So you can publish. All right. So this is published. Now let's go to develop tab and look at this one, right? So we have the SQL script within this SQL script section. We can create a folder and we can organize things a little better when we are actually working in a production environment. Let me say demo. Okay, and let me move this to demo. Okay, all right. So any change that you make on the portal, you'll need to keep publishing it. Okay. Okay, as we are done with the standard JSON format now, let's go ahead and use um, the line delimited version of the same information. So I have the standard JSON that we already loaded. Let's take a quick look. Right, array of JSON objects. Now I have the same exact information in this one, but look at the difference here. Right, so you don't have the comma separating the JSON objects. You don't have this the square brackets to show this as an array. So each line is actually a valid JSON object. This type of data you usually get from the streaming systems. Okay, so let's go ahead and load this one. I'm here again in Synapse Analytics. I am using this file now, 4 underscore line underscore delimited dot underscore JSON, doing the same exact thing, right? And also I am writing this name here so that, okay. So let's go ahead and run this and see what it does, right? As expected, this loaded everything into one single column, which is perfect. Okay. Now in this case, actually, if you see, you have a line delimiter which can actually help you identify each JSON object, right? So if we want to utilize that, what we could do is we can simply say A in the row terminator. This is also mentioned in the Microsoft documentation, and this denotes the new line. Okay, so you can mention 0x 0a here, and now look at what is the difference. Okay, so now each JSON object is listed in a separate row. Okay, now we removed this section earlier, right, in the previous query. we had removed this section, but in this section we can actually make use of this. Okay, we still can use this, by the way. I mean, let me go ahead and show you this. If you use this exact thing here, okay, and let's go ahead and make this as star and run it, right? So you're getting the output here as well. Okay, so you can still use this. This is one way of doing it, you can say, right? And let me not delete this, rather I'll have this as a separate query now, and I'll remove this, and I will enable this section here. Okay, and we will make use of JSON value function now. Now in our case, we have, like, in separate line we have one valid JSON object, right? So this is the reason we can use this function in this case. So here is how you will basically use this. So it says, like, this is the JSON content where you want to query it from, and what is the path to it, right? So this is a this is the JSON, and it can simply find product ID. Okay, and let me take this one from here, and product description, and let me mention this here as well as an alias. Okay, let's run it. All right, so you have two ways to work on such files, basically the line delimited files, where you can extract the single JSON as a valid output in each row. Okay, so one way to do this is like simple. You mention this the row terminator as 0x0a, and use the cross apply with Openjson function, and you can specify the columns here with the with clause, and the other way is you can use the JSON value function here. Okay, so these are the two solutions in this case. This will start to differ when we go ahead and work on the nested files. Okay, so then you will realize, in certain cases you will never use JSON value function, and vice versa. Okay, so let's just publish this one as well. I'm moving this to demo. Okay. All right, now let's okay, let this be published as well, and now we will move to the next file. Okay, the next file I'm going to walk you through is the nested array. Okay, let's take a look at it. All right, so this is an example of a simple cart where you have the product IDs listed as array. Okay, so everything is same, but only the difference is that now I have one attribute which is not really a single value, but rather an array of values. In the Synapse side, so I'll not explain each and every step, so I'll be a little quick this time. So, okay, let me, okay, all right, I'm able to read the data. So I'll make the standard changes that we make, right? I'll say star, or let me quickly use card ID, product ID, and amount. Sorry, this should be product ID and amount. Okay, so and we can use cross apply Openjson and JSON content with the with clause. Yeah, here is the difference. So card ID is again int. Okay, amount here is you can take as float. Okay, now the difference is product ID, right? So now product ID is not a single value. Now product ID is actually an array. Now how do we take this one, right? So we will need to take this as a JSON array itself. Okay, so we will say product ID. This is a n varchar max. Okay, so and mention this as JSON. Okay, so this when is actually telling this that okay, do not parse this, just take this one as a JSON objects within that. Okay, and this is a standard guideline from Microsoft that whenever you are saying as JSON, you will have to use n varchar max for that object. Okay, yeah, all right. So here you see cart ID and product ID and amount. Okay, so we are able to load this data. Okay, now the question here is now uh, whether you want to. So one thing is that you may want like to see like okay the first product as a first column, second product third column, second column, and third product as a third column and things like that, which is I mean, in this case, does not sound about right, but in some scenarios, yeah, you might want to have, separate columns, uh, picked up from the arrays when you know the length of the array would be a fixed number, and in your business scenario, it makes sense to separate them as columns. Okay, if we want to further expand this, right, we could use the same technique like we did here. We could use cross apply once again, and now the JSON content for us is product ID, right? Because this is being returned as a JSON. Now, if you know a little bit about Openjson function, right? By default, let me go back here. Okay, so by default, if we don't use the with clause, it returns three columns: key, value, and its type. Okay, so if I don't use the with clause, key, value, and type. So basically, what is the key name, what is the value name, and what is the type of the value? So in our case, this is a simple array. So basically, there is no name of the key, right? And it will only return value and type. So we can use either value here, right? Let me show you first what it shows with the star. Okay, so that you get what I'm saying. Okay, see, so with star you're getting basically everything, right? JSON content, the cart ID, this is repeating itself three times now. First row value is your first value, this one, right? First value of the array, second value of the array becomes second row, third value of the array becomes third row, and likewise, like in the second example, now card, second card is being repeated twice because this has two values in the array. Okay, now what do we want to pick up? We want to pick up value and card ID amount. Okay, so card ID amount and value. Let's try this. If it doesn't work, then we'll use the alias here. Okay, so it worked actually, but good way is to do this like product something like that, and then you say products dot value, so that you know the context basically, right? So this one is coming from, I mean, we did not use the alias here as well, so you could use as cart or something like that, and then you say okay, cart dot star, and card dot star, and products, out of products you only want value, right? It should work. Yeah, right, something like this. So you should, now you're getting array also because we use star, but anyway, I think you get the concept, right? So let me just quickly publish this and we'll move to the next one. Okay, so the next file that we will use is exactly the same thing that we did. Like you have a standard JSON with nested array, but now you have a line delimited, right? Same thing. The only thing that you will do is you will change the parameter from 0x0b to 0x0a. So I leave this for your practice, right? So this should essentially be exactly like this one, right? But a little bit of tweaks. So I would leave this to you for you to exercise. And if you find any challenges, if you face any issues, right, just let me know in the comments, or send me an email, right? And I will give you the solution. Uh, Okay, and let's go ahead and look at the next problem statement that we have. This one is this one is a little bit more complicated now. Okay, now we have a standard JSON again, with cart ID, cart contents. Now we have further nesting of JSON objects. Okay, so we have an array of JSON objects. Earlier we had an array of values only, right? In the previous example, now we have array of further JSON objects, right? So it's a JSON within the JSON, right? Now how do we deal with such data? Okay, if you're still with me, so we will work on the file number 3, which is standard JSON with nested attributes, and line delimited JSON with nested attributes uh, side by side. Okay, and this one is going to be very interesting and quicker than the previous one. Okay, let's get started. This is the last one. So I'm selecting the top 100 rows as usual. Let's run this. The content is in a single line. Right now we see that cart ID and cart contents. Now cart contents is an array of JSON objects. Now, how do we deal with this, right? I'm sure that you already guessed it, but let me quickly start typing. So here we will have cart ID as int and cart contents n varchar max as JSON. So this is exactly the same thing that we did with the arrays one in the previous example, right? So you can take card contents as JSON, right? And then we can further expand this with so now card contents is our JSON. So let me put it here. Now within cart contents, if you see, what do we have? So we have product ID and price, right? So let me add product ID here and let me have price here. Okay. So this is no longer a JSON. So price is let's say float, right? Uh, Now I think you get the concept, and even if it is nested one more level, two more levels, doesn't really matter. Now you can use further cross applies, and it will keep on adding as many rows and getting nested to further levels depending upon the number of attributes and things like that. Okay, so let me just run this and yeah, okay. So there's one good practice that we should ideally do, that okay, so this is the cart content, right? Level 1, let us say. uh, I'm just saying cart level 1, and I so this is one level deeper, right? So let me say cart level 2. So you can keep these names as per your business context, right? And cart level 1 dot, what do you need from cart level 1? So this is your cart level 1. We only need cart ID, okay? Because cart contents is an array which we are expanding here. So cart level 2 dot product ID and price. Sorry, cart level 2 dot price. And let's run this and we are done. All right, boom, right? So this is done. We are able to load standard nested JSON files also. Now let me quickly publish this and okay, we'll publish this later. So let me go ahead and do the same thing for the file number 6. Okay, take a quick look once again. It's a similar information. The only difference is that there is line delimiter here. So basically it's not formatted the way the previous one was formatted, and there was comma and array of objects and things like that. Now it's a simple line delimited JSON, but the information it contains is exactly the same. Sorry, that had only 2 rows, I believe, and this has 5 rows. Okay, let's go back. Let's go to data, my container, and open the sixth one also and do a top 100. Okay, let's do this. Rather, we'll copy the whole code, this one, the previous one that we wrote, right? And then we will paste it here. Change that we need to make is we need the name of that file, right? Okay. And what else do we need to change? So this one, right? The row terminator. So don't forget this. This is the only major thing. Okay, now let's run this as well. Awesome. So this is also done and this is also done, right? So now we will touch upon the concept of JSON value once again using this solution. Okay. Um, all right. So let me open this file once again. Okay. Uh, I'm going back to my data, going on the sixth file, line delimited one, and again saying top 100 rows. Okay. Why I'm doing this is because I want to show you how do you deal with line delimited files using the JSON value function. Because whenever you have line delimited JSON files, basically when you can retrieve the JSON object in a single file, then you have both the options as I explained earlier in the video. You can use JSON value function also, and this will, however, like segregate that information not into rows but into columns. We will see that. Okay, let me just do this. Enable. Let's enable this. Okay, and let's do that change also. So this is a line delimited file, and what are the things that we had? Okay, the easier way is let's look at the file contents here. Okay, so we have cart ID, we have cart contents, and within that we have product ID and price, right? So let's copy these things from here. Cart ID. So this is outside, so this dot cart ID should work. And now this is an array. Look at this one, right? So this is a square bracket. So cart content here is an array. So you will do this cart contents dot square bracket and then give the index of the array that you are picking up the first element out of the array, and inside that array that is again a JSON object. So now you're picking up a specific attribute. Let's say I want to pick up product ID here. Okay, so I'll say dot product ID. Okay, so this is essentially my card ID, and this one is my first product ID. Let me name it this way because then it'll make sense. Okay, and if I want to pick up the second product also, right? So I will say that index two, sorry, index one, second product. Okay, and let's just run this, guys. Okay. Okay, what did we do wrong? Oh, we are using star as well. Okay, so you're getting your cart ID and you're getting your first product ID being being shown here. Okay, so this is your first product, this is your second product, right? So this is coming as as another column, right? You could use the third one as well. Like for example, I say that third product ID. Okay, for some of the records it will be null, obviously. Yeah, look at this one, right? So we did not have more than two products here, so we see null, otherwise we see the values there, right? So in this case, maybe it's not the perfect example to show this kind of scenario, but when you have like amount and quantity and things like that, and then you may want them to be in separate columns side by side in order to multiply them later on to derive another column and things like that, and not to really duplicate those as rows, then it actually makes sense. Okay, so we should know if we have to use JSON value, then how can we use it, and if we have to use the normal line delimited with Openjson, that solution also I've explained. So I hope you guys like this video. I hope you like the content, and also if you get stuck anywhere, please do reach me, uh, and I will try and reply to each and every comment on the video. Thank you so much.